Welcome to Between the Pages, Kids, Books, and Values. Today we're going to continue on with problem solving. And I want to start with a story that I really like. It's about a college student who went to school. He was late, and went to school and there were some problems on the board. So he wrote the problems down and just assumed it was part of the homework. And so he went home and did his homework, that the other assignment that was on the board, and did those problems. And he solved one, and he couldn't solve the other one. And he was so upset. And he brought the homework in the next day, and he was graduating. He wanted to be placed in a college, and he'd been doing straight A's, 4.0 in that class, and he just couldn't solve this one problem. He was so upset. And he went to the professor, and he said, here, I'm sorry. Here's my homework. I'm sorry I couldn't solve one of the problems. And he went home and was in his dorm. And that night, there was a knock on the door. And the professor had looked at the homework that day. And he was flabbergasted because the problems on the board were unsolvable. Albert Einstein, the smartest man, could not figure out an answer to these problems. And this child, this teenager, this college student, figured out the problem, figured out an answer, solved it. And he was like, had to go to the dorm, and he was like, you were late for class. How come you did this? And he goes, well, I was a little late for class, And he goes, those problems were unsolvable, but you solved one. You solved it. You figured it out. And he's like, when the news he obviously got an A, and when the news got out, he had his pick of colleges. He didn't have to choose which one or pray that they got him because he was smart. But he had this problem, and he didn't know it was unsolvable. He didn't know there was no answers. It was impossible. He hadn't heard from everybody around him that you couldn't do it. The Wright brothers had a problem. They didn't know how to fly. They wanted to fly. And everybody around them told him it was impossible. People cannot fly in the air. But they figured out. They chose to figure out. So when you have a problem, when you have a situation that comes up, what does your children think? Are they learning that there's so many problems out there and they can't succeed? Or are you teaching them there are problems, but we need to figure out how to find the solutions? We would never been to the moon. We would never been flying if we didn't think of problems as something that can be solvable. Discovery of a solution consists of looking at the same thing everyone else does, but thinking something different. We can think something different if we can look around and see each problem as something that can be solvable, something that can change us. So help your child think differently. There's a couple activities that you can do with your children to help them think. And one is playing the what if game. What if there was a fire started while you were at home all alone? What would you do? What if someone was at your house and they wanted you to smoke or drink? What if someone asked you if they could cheat off your paper in school? What if a friend gets hurt while you're playing and there isn't a parent around? What if the power goes out and we're not home and the weather is bad? What are you going to do? If you start thinking of these things and coming up, you can think extravagantly, weird things, make it a lot of fun. You can be serious, you can be joking, you can do lots of different things. What if a monster came into your house? Or an alien? What if the fire started and you called down aliens to help you? They're not realistic problems, but it would be fun to get it started. Start doing something like that, and then have more fun. Go into it more fun. Do more things with it. Another activity to increase your child's creativity and thinking, problem-solving skills, is to ask, what do you think about this? What do you think we should do? How could this be made better? What would you do differently? So that they think, they realize it's not just the way it's always been. Most of the time we do things when people get married, we do it because that's the way it's always been done. Well, there are other choices. There are other things we can do. Take a paper plate. What can we make out of this paper plate? Take a rubber band or paper clips. What can we create? Think of different things. Give your kids choices during the day. Do you want to wear the purple shirt or the pink one? Do you want one jelly bean now, or do you want 3 jelly beans in an hour when the timer goes off? This is really good. This question is really good because you're teaching them they can make a choice. They can have it now or they can have it later. And if they wait for later, and I would encourage you to encourage your children, to wait for later, because that's learning delayed satisfaction. Because if they can learn to wait, then they can grow so much more. The credit card industry is just like, yes, give it to me now, give it to me now. They're like, yay, all these people want it now. And we get the money because they have to pay for it later, versus waiting until the people have the money. So this is just a little activity, one little thing. Teaching your child to wait, to have a jelly bean now, or 3 jelly beans later. You're giving them that choice. But you're teaching them that's the foundation on how to be a saver or how not to spend your money right away. And it's a great lesson to teach your kids. And you can teach them when they're 4 or 5. You're laying a foundation for when they get older. Other questions you can say is, let's pretend you can't find your keys and nobody's home. What do you do? What should happen if your coat is on the floor and not hung up? What should happen? What consequences should I give you for not cleaning up after yourself? Talk about big decisions like buying a car or getting a job and moving that you've done in the past. How did you make those decisions? What were the consequences? What bad consequences? What good consequences did you do in your life because of the decisions you made? Let the children know you're human. Let them know you've done bad. We all do bad. We've all done it. And if they think you've never done wrong, then what are they going to do? Another thing to do is like plan a vacation together. Where should we go? What should we do? How long should we stay? How much money is it going to take? What are the sacrifices the family is going to make? Because there is sacrifices, okay? Somebody has to give up, so we don't go to McDonald's or Burger King or someplace, because we're going to save that money for our vacation. Teach them to take ownership. My children wanted to go to Hawaii, and I was like, what single mom takes their children to Hawaii? We can't do it. But I'm like, why not? Why can't we go to Hawaii? And I said, okay, we're not going to Burger King. We're not going to McDonald's. We're going to save our money. And they're like, okay. I was like, I thought it was going to be hard. They're like, they wanted to go to Hawaii. It was like, okay, let's save our money. And it was easy because they had a part of the goal. They knew what they wanted. How much work are you going to have to miss? Somebody has to miss work. Hopefully you get paid for it. Hopefully it's not without pay. But everything has consequences. So let's look at it. How can you help your children? So this week, I encourage you to do one of those activities with your children and enjoy your time with them.